Senator Bingaman, you were here this morning to talk mostly at the field hearing about the Ute Water Project. Was there anything new that you gathered, and what looks to be the next step from right here?
Well, I think the hearing was very useful, but I can't say that there was new information as such. I think what became clear in the hearing was that we've got a real disconnect between the level of concern and the commitment and the willingness to move ahead by the local leaders and the state of New Mexico, speaking through our state engineer, and on the one hand, and the Bureau of Reclamation on the other. The Bureau of Reclamation obviously has been dragging its feet, has been unwilling to indicate support for the project, unwilling to work with the state and the local community to accelerate the process, and so that's what we're going to have to overcome.
And when we look at projects like the rural water, like the Ute Water Project and others, cost always seems to be a prohibitive factor. And with the Ute Water Project right now, we're looking at a $432 million cost, and that equates, assuming 50,000 citizens would be served. You can bump the estimates up or down, but that would be about 8,000 per person that it's served. How would you get broad-based support in Washington and throughout the committee in the first place for this type of legislation?
Well, obviously any spending by the federal government, of course this is over a series of years that this would be funded. It's not as though we're going in and saying we want $432 million in 1 year. We're going to take it in increments. But all of the funding that we do back there is just a question of priorities. You know, what's important to the country? Is it important to meet the water needs of rural parts of our country? And many of us, particularly people who represent the West, think it is, and think this is a good investment in infrastructure. This is a project which will meet the needs, serve the needs of this community and others in eastern New Mexico for a very long period of time. So this is a significant investment. I don't question that, but it's also when you amortize it over the period of time that it will be used, I think it's a justified investment.
I've never really been able to understand how eastern New Mexico is going to get $432 million or whatever it's going to end up being. How do you and Pete Domenici convince everybody else that, hey, this is a good idea? I mean, is that all about we'll approve your project if you'll approve ours? Or what's the strategy in convincing everybody else that this is a good idea?
Well, I think the strategy is that there are a couple of different elements to the strategy. First, you've got to convince both the administration and key members of Congress that investing in rural water projects is an appropriate thing for the federal government to be doing, and we should begin committing some funds to that. The Congress has put funds into rural water projects in recent years. The administration has basically asked for no funding for any rural water projects, not ours, none of the rest in the West either. So that's the first hurdle we jump. This project, I think the truth is we pass these are multi-year authorizations. You pass it and then you go about trying to get the actual appropriations to fund it. So you try to get 60 or 80 or $100 million each year for the next 5 years, and then you're able to get the project constructed.
Which of our serious presidential candidates do you think is most likely to have an administration that would want to fund rural water projects?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, I think clearly Bill Richardson would if he were able to succeed. I think he, having served as governor of New Mexico and as congressman out here, I think he's aware of the needs that rural areas of the West have. I would say, I'd be somewhat optimistic that we could persuade several of the folks on the Democratic side that this should be a priority for the country. We'd obviously have to get in there and see, but it's a question of, where does this fit in the overall priorities of the country under a new administration? It's very hard to predict.